All right, so thank you for coming here today. Yeah, welcome to Seven Peaks. Yeah, so some of you might know who we are. Some of you might not know who we are. So I just explain a little bit in brief. So we are the international software house. We started in Norway and then we moved our headquarters in Bangkok since 2014. So we have been in Thailand for 6 years already. So we are international software house. We have like 60 people from around the world. We have 20 plus nationalities working together. So people here have a different background in other countries with a different industry and also different, tech stack. So we are working together as a full stack. And also we have a team in the back end, front end, full stack. And also we have UX, UI design, digital marketing. We have a QA. Yeah, we have other management admin spot here. Right, so yeah, I just would like to quick explanation what we are doing. So we're doing software development as well. We're also having web development, and we have mobile for native mobile app for iOS and Android as well. Yeah. So this is just you. If you want to connect the Wi-Fi, you can just guess as 7 Peaks and visit 7 Peaks as a password. Right. And please also feel free to check in. Yeah, here you can just type 7 Peaks software on the Facebook, share the your connection societies on your profile, and please also follow and like our page on the Facebooks and also on the LinkedIn. The thing is that we always update what is going on in the 7 Peaks. For example, we have a lot of things to share, the ideas, and also we have updated news, and also we are sharing all the opening positions and also new upcoming a meetup, and also we sharing some interesting articles as well and case study, so you can learn a lot from the social media posts. And also we also share some of our activities internet activities and also external activities. So based on what you're following, you will see that what we are doing, where we are going, what kind of activities or what kind of event meetups happening at the 7 Peaks, or what kind of meetup event we are sponsor or organizing in the other organization. Yeah. We also have a restaurant here right in outside of the door. All right, so yeah, as you know that 7 Peaks is are growing very fast. Some of you know about our company before, so we started with a few small team, and now we have 60 plus within 6 years, growing very fast within last 2 years as well. So again, even though we have a pandemic and also other financial situation in the economic recession, that we stay doing very well. Yeah, it's a because of we have different clients and different business industry. That's why we are growing our team very fast. Again, we also hiring more people. For example, now we are urgently looking for the Android, someone who has skills in the Kotlin, and also we are looking for the full stack iOS developer. For iOS, we use tech stack Objective-C or Swift. Yeah, and also we have full stack position, cloud architect, .NET, and also QA role. If you yourself interested to explore new challenging opportunity working at the international software house, or maybe your colleague or your junior friend or senior friends who are looking for the job, because we have industry research that some of the company hit because of the COVID-19 or the business is struggling. So we try to help other industry as well. If they're looking for the job, just let them know. Just send the CV to 7 Peaks job site 7 Peaks software, or you can also go to our website 7peakssoftware.com/career. And also our people are here. Whoever wearing 7 Peaks polo shirt, you can just go and talk. Yeah, we have our talent acquisition team here, and also we have a marketing QA team here, and also we have people from 7 Peaks software as well. Right. After this meetup, we will send the short surveys. You can also scan the QR here, or we send the survey to you. The thing is that we would like to get your feedback, whether how was our meetup, which part, pros and cons, which thing you like in the contents or the topics, or which you don't like it. So you can also share, free to share your feedback, because the thing is that we don't know if you don't share as you know. So we can also, prepare better in the next time. And also, if you think that some of the topics that you're interesting to discuss or interesting to listening, or you can share to us, hey, maybe good to have this kind of meetup. So we will try to organize like twice a month for the meetup. Like last time we have like QA, and also next month we have like a BKJS like we are happening here. So yeah, it will be more like a React and front-end things. Like I hope to see you guys again. So again, like please try give a like survey. It's a very like valuable for us, and really appreciate for that. All right, and you can also check on our page. We have like an event page. You can also scan the QR here, or you can just go to 7peaksoftware.com/events. So you will see that upcoming events on our page. Like you see, like next month we have like a few events like BKJS, and also in the October we have more like a back-end React like meetups as well. So you can also just try to register, and freebie you can visit again to see more our like activities and meetups. All right, so this is the upcoming meetup. You will see like 1st of October we have like BKJS. Unfortunately, the tickets already sold out, but of course like we stay live streaming. Like we all of our meetups have live streaming, so you can also follow our social media or check on the YouTube. So on the 28th October, we have like beers and peers, and also in October as well, we have Android meetup. In November, we have React, and in December, we have cloud meetups. So this is like a just confirmed meetup. We might have more meetup, and we will keep you updated on the social media or our page. All right, so today we will talk about Node.js, the past, present, and future. We have 4 speakers here. And like we start with the registration, and yeah, we just welcome speech, and we have a session 1, session 2, and we have like a break time. Like during the break time, you can also talk each other and grab the beer, and we will have a pizza. Pizza is coming for the break time. And each section has a Q&A. So feel free to ask if you have any question. For example, like session 1, if you have any questions, just like discuss, and so we get more like input from your side as well. So yeah, at the end we will have like a mingle, like just talk each other if you still have more questions. So for the next, I just would like to invite our front-end tech lead Max to introduce the front-end team. Welcome, Max.
Hello. All right. Well. All right. Thank you. Well, there's a lot more people than what I expected at the beginnings, but that's fine. I'm pretty excited to see you guys tonight. Thanks for coming once again. But first of all, let me check if any of you guys came here for the first time at 7 Peaks. Well, it's just like probably like 50% of you guys. But have you heard about our company before, 7 Peaks? As a software company, we recently just rebranding to the new logo and new CI, so it could look a little bit different from what we had previously. But anyway, I believe Joseph just give you a brief introduction about the company, but I do it again anyway. So as he say, we are an international design and software agency in Bangkok. And as you know, he already described our kind of history. But this is what our company do in a nutshell. We basically considering ourselves as a tech partners. We don't really see ourselves as a software agency. We tend to help our business partner to enhance their value or help them through the technologies technical things that they want. So we do everything from very beginnings as a technology consulting, from idea validation, UX designs, and go through discovery phase. And we also help them to implement things as well. For our company, we do different kind of digital kind of products. In mobile, web, and also doing some sort of architecture consultant as well. And at the end, we also provide some sort of QA to help our customer to deliver a product with bug free, something like that. So that's all about the company, but since I'm from the front-end team, here at Seven Peaks, we have like 11 people in the team. You probably feel familiar with some of the faces here, but that's what we have at this moment. And I actually forgot to introduce myself. I'm the second guy up there. My name is Max. So you could potentially see me in the other text event getting drunk or something like that, but that's what I normally do. So here at Seven Peak, this is the main technology that we use. For the front-end side, we basically have two different kind of things: Angular as a web framework, and also React as a front-end libraries. And for the choice of the back-end, as in JavaScript technology, we use Node.js. So I probably don't really go into details thing here, since you guys here probably be like a dev already, yeah? So let me check how many devs are here. So yeah, majority of you guys know what it is already, and that's what we use. You probably see this one is really like standard libraries, and the reason why we're doing that, because we care about our client or someone else who will maintain the code base. As you know, we are a digital agency, yeah? So sometimes we help our partner to build up the apps, and at the end, they probably ended up maintaining their code base by themselves, or they hand it to another vendors to do so. So what we try to do here is to simplify everything as much as we can, so they can easily continue with the good work that we did. So even though we use a lot of standard library here, but that doesn't mean everything is going to be boring in our company. As you can see here, we got very huge range of different kind of clients. We got it from telecommunication industry, so on and so on. Yeah, a lot of exciting thing to do, and I mean, if you join us, you probably get excited to work with this client as well. Apart from that, we don't really just work. I mean, I do work a lot, but not that much comparing to anything else. We do a lot of party as well. We got a lot of activities. Like as you can see at the back, we got the beer tub. Actually, we get drunk every Fridays, to be honest. But that's how we treat ourselves after long day of working. Not just only drink, but we do sport as well. A few days ago, we went to the CrossFit, and also we do e-sport here as well. Yeah, not just sport, then we eat again after we play some sport. The left one, we do white testing here in the office, and also every Thursday we got lunch. So that's some sort of experience we got here as a developers, and I feel enjoy doing a job here. So as Joseph mentioned earlier, that we are hiring. So if you guys are good at React, Angular, or whatsoever JavaScript, just come straight to me, and maybe we can have a chat about the opportunities. Not just only the opportunity things that you could come to us, but maybe some sort of technical question that you have. It either be your private question or some problem that you got from your own companies, and you need someone to help, like in JavaScript or web technology. We are welcome to help. And once again, thanks you guys again for coming, and I hope to see you around, and we can chat a little bit more. Yeah, and apart from this, I might be able to help you translate like some sort of English to Thai as well if you need that sort of help. I will do like the the hand language thing too.
All right, so I would like to invite our next speaker, Gorky. Yeah, so he will go about Hexagonal Architecture. So can you guys come back to the seat? All right, let's start it. All right, welcome, Gorky.
Hi guys. Yeah, happy to see here so many people, most of developers. It's so cool. So, what I'm going to do in this presentation, I want to start talking about why we need some architecture in our application. After that, little bit talk about clear architecture patterns and about like hexagonal architecture. After I will show like some slides, how it's maybe a little bit explained, and after that we'll do live coding session. It's not like really live coding, but I prepare some example that implements this architecture. So yeah, let's get started. Yeah. Everybody sees that, like in legacy code, yeah? So I will start with two sad stories. It's very short stories and actually very sad. So first one, like you stay in sprint 1 and think, oh, let's use Redis to our persistent data store. And it's so cool, so fast, and so good idea. Let's do it. And after that, in sprint 20, you see, oh my God, you already reached 256 gigabytes of storage, and you cannot really use it anymore. I need to migrate very fast in MySQL, for example. And like, yeah, it's so bad. Or like, for example, you in first sprint, you think, oh, let's use Happy Web Framework. And after sprint 20, for example, again, it's a new version of coming with breaking changes, and you need to update to this version and rewrite everything. Said, oh, what you will do? Actually, there is two possible solutions of it. So first solution, you need to like, oh, we need to rewrite everything. We need 10 more sprints to apply this. And other solution, it's like, oh, it's not a big problem. We need to only adjust one of layer of our application. Can be do very fast. Yeah. So thinking about architecture, it's really helping you from future to not get in any issues. So yeah, what's that clean architecture basically? It means that your application independent from everything, from framework, from business rules, not bound to database, to infrastructure, independent from any external agency. And you can easily test your business logic without anything, without database interface, web API, without anything. I like quote from Alistair Cockburn. It's actually a guy who invented and who popularized this architecture. So allow an application to accurately be driven by users, programs, automated tests, or batch scripts, and to be developed and tested in isolation from its eventual runtime devices and databases. Good quote, I think, very like. So yeah, what's you see here, Hexagon. It's basically our application. So we have, from the start, we have two layers, like domain layer and application layer. What's domain layer? Domain layer, it's something that contains your business rules, and only this one. Application layer, it's something that like glue between domain layer and outer world. To actually connecting with outer world, we use these ports. It's called ports. Port, it basically, it's basically interface that it's like specification how you can use this, how you can work with this. Very important in this that dependency only point inwards. So domain layer don't know anything about application layer. It's just itself. But application layer and ports and everything know everything about domain and can manipulate and work with it. So this one actually already built an application with hexagonal architecture. So we have our same application layer, domain layer, all this application. And here we have, it's called driving adapter. It's like something that control your application, that set what to do your application. Here it's just internet, user goes there, using Express web server, it's called here Express adapter. And yeah, through service port, it control application. This one in this side, it's driven adapter. So it's something that your application controls, that your application need to access database, access email, access logs, or something like this. So same adapter, application communicate with this adapter through ports. Basically, adapters, it's the classes that implements the ports interfaces. That's it, nothing more. But really good with this architecture, really big power. If you want to change one of your adapter, for example, you want to change database, or want to change mail provider, or even you want to change, for example, migrate from Express to Core, it's so easy to do. It's just you remove it and rewrite only adapter code, because your application don't need to change anything. You already have all your business logic in place. Just make your adapters implement these interfaces. That's it, basically. So maybe not make sense for now, a little bit. Maybe now I will go to the code. I hope it will be more sense. Yeah. So here, can you see? Okay. So what we have here, we have source. By the way, I'm using here TypeScript. Do you guys familiar with TypeScript? Somebody? Yeah? Yeah? Oh, not much. Okay, familiar with other static type languages? Okay. Okay, anyway. Yes, you see? We have adapters, applications. So our structure of our project. Commons, it's like a common stuff, and domains. Let's go from inside to outside. So let's start with domains. It's very easy application. It's basically shopping cart. So what is it? It has user and he has shopping cart, and you can put some product in his shopping cart. That's it. So we have user class. Do nothing. I mean, very easy. We have two fields, ID and shopping cart. Now have logic, and we have shopping cart here. And here already we have implement our own single business logic, basically. To add, we have products, list of products, and the shopping cart, what it do? When you call add, if product already in shopping cart, have ID, same ID, right? It's just increase amount. If it's not in shopping cart, this just push it in shopping cart. That's easy. Only this business logic we have in this project. But cool with this architecture, with this, it's not only about like hexagonal. It's about domain driven design. It's called. So you make all your design application from the domain, from the core business logic. And that's cool that you can very easy to test it. You see, I don't need to mock anything. I just import this one and write very simple test. Should add a new product to MP cart. Check it. So like three lines of code, so easy. Should add new product to non-MP cart as well, so easy. Should add product with same ID, so easy as well. And cover all possible solutions here. And very, very easy to write the test. Don't need to mock anything, don't need to think about anything. It's just core business logic. And product's very simple. Its interface have product ID, that's it. Have amount, yeah. So easy. So this one is it's basically domain layer. Domain layer is middle of our application. Let's go to next layer, it's application. And application already contains ports. What's port? It's basically interfaces here. So for user, we have user repository port. So what it have? It's interface, and it says that all implementation of this interface should have two methods, retrieve and save. That's it. Next, logger. And we said, okay, all implementation of this logger port should have info, debug, error. And there is actually both of previous stuff was dry when. So it's like something to application to control. And this one, it's drive-in adapter or drive-in port. So it's actually service that your application do for you. What's it do? Retrieve card for user, add product to user, and clear card for user. So all of implementation of this this interface must have 3 of these methods. Here we have actually implementation, delegating card service. It's already implementation of this port. So what's we actually don't have much business logic here. It's not really business logic. What we have to do, from repository, we get user, check if user exists, write logs, and just return user card. That product as well. We just check, get user from user repository, just check, do some business logic here from domain, add to cart, it's from here. It's from here. So add, call this method. And just save the result with the repository with our port. And clear, same, very easy. So this application only used for connecting actually your ports and your business logic. That's it. Don't need to write anything more here. And as you see, I did not go to implementation yet. So for example, for the repository, we have adapters here. And for the driving adapters, I misspelled here. Anyway, if you need to start, for example, your task, you need to write some business logic, but you're not sure what database I should use. And for example, maybe business department, they cannot find solution, they're thinking, but you still can really start working. Because here, for example, I implement two adapters. First one in-memory user repository interface that implements user repository. And so easy. As you see, we have user maps, retrieve, just get user from the map, save, just set user to the maps. And you can write like 12 lines of code. And and you can really start implementing your application with this memory. You don't need to wait until we decide what database use, what technology use. Here as well, I implement, and later, when you want to switch from this simple in-memory repository, if you want to switch to like real life, like MySQL repository, I implement here my MySQL repository, and you don't need to rewrite any other code. Just write new adapter. That's it. So simple. And here it's same. It implements same methods: retrieve and save. It's more complex because it's working with database. But as I said, it's not really when you create these methods, when you create this structure, you don't really think about, how I will store this in database. You don't think about that. You just think how to really optimize, create the business logic of this. And after that, you think about, okay, we will use MySQL database. Okay, we will store it like this. Or like if you want to store this data in Mongo or even in Redis if you like, you can write the repository, the adapter to Redis and just work with it. Okay, same. And also good part here, here you see I implement some some tests, some unit tests. And you don't really need to mock anything again. I mean, you just take this in memory, just create some repository with some data in it, and just write, should return existing user with this card, right? Okay. If user exists, it should return, right? So easy. It's actually one line of test and like 3 assertion. Yeah, should return undefined if user not found. 2 lines of code, so easy. And here as well, like should save user, should save existing user. So actually, it's very clear and very easy to write test for this scenario. And good part is if you once write, so first I write test to in-memory repository, and after that, I just move here and just copy. It's test change. I mean, like only this part of initialization database is different. All other code, you see, it's exactly the same. I just copy paste it. You don't really need to write new tests because it must implement same logic. So you don't really need to rewrite one new test case because it's same. It should work same. That's why actually very easy to migrate from one database to another one with this pattern. Same as all this stuff. All here I implement console logger, very easy. But later, if you want, okay, let's use Winston. Very easy to migrate to Winston. You just implement info debug error and just use Winston to store this login. Okay, let's go interesting part. To drive in, to drive in repository. So here I implement core. Very easy core server is just create process server, just create core web server, and we have roles. So what's really roles do here? What's code should be here? It's like you take parameters, like it can be body, it can be params, like here, pass it to your service layer, to your application layer, through the drive-in ports, and just return the result. Should not be any logic here. It should be like this, like here. You take params, you send it to the adapter, and you just send it to your application through the port, and just get response and show to user. That's it. And here as well. You see like 3 lines. There should not be any logic here. In this case, here I implement two web servers as well. So to show you how easy can switch if you like using Express and later, it's a good idea to let's try core, for example. Or like from core, maybe there is some bugs in core. Or like my previous example, if you use Happy and you want to migrate to core, for example, it's so easy to do. Like here, it's basically same code. It's a little bit looks little bit more ugly, but actually it's take params. It's already Express server. It's not core anymore. You see, it's like Express. You take params, send it to the service layer, to the application layer, and just return response. That's it. Here as well, very, very simple. And again, tests. Tests, here it's more kind of integration test. So what you need to do here actually, because you need to inject your application in your web server here. So you need to create your test, like test application, delegating car service. But here you see, we can create test user repository. It's as well same, implement same, and so easy. You see, just 2 lines of code. We don't need to think, our MySQL user repository. We just use our test repository because we don't need to think about how repository works. We just need to test our web server here. And here, just simple with super test. You see, health check should return OK. Users should return like not found if user not found. throw an error if something throw an error. Here should return user if exists, and delete user as well. Should clear the card, should send error if something happens, and should actually return successful message. Good that, again, this, if you want to migrate later in other web server, we exactly can copy. Because here I just copy. I don't need to write anything more. I just copy test, and it's okay. It's already written, because it's, again, even it's use different technology, it's implement same logic. Yeah, and I have kind of more integration test here. Not really integration, kind of unit text, but for delegating card service. It's again, it's create test repository, and we just write simple test. It's a bit more, here tests a bit more complex, but still, you see, still it's 3 lines of code. You didn't need to write any assertion, didn't need to use any library for mocking, for anything. It's so easy to write. Yeah. And after, because so easy to write test, actually you can easily reach very, very high test coverage here. Because you don't really need to think about like edge cases, something like this. You just test business logic. And it's actually, if your business logic right and good, it should be really easy to test. That's actually, if you cannot really test your business logic easily, it means it's not really right and good. That's my opinion. Okay, sorry. So yeah, benefits of Hexagonal. Easily to maintain, easy to write test, easy to adapt, and one of, I think, important part for real life is delay technological decision. So you don't really need to decide from the start what you will use, what technology you will use, how you will use it. You just can, from the start, can focus on core business logic and core implementation of your application. And yeah, a lot of benefits, and have one disadvantage actually. As you see, it's kind of complex. So for even here, application with 2 rows and like very, very simple business logic, it's kind of complex. It's very high complexity. But I still highly recommend to use this architecture for even for small applications that have complex business logic. For big applications, it's must, because if I use it like 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know, is it exist? Yeah, it exists. And if I use it 5 years ago with Node, I solve so many problems in my life, in real development project. Yeah. That's it. Please questions. Yeah.
Microphone.
Yeah.
Hello. All right. I got microphone, so I'm the first one who ask you a question. Anyway, the idea that you try to propose here is basically the idea of OOP in general, right? The idea is like you want a low couplings and high cohesion. And I just want to ask you that why is that your Hexagon pattern different from the general OOP pattern?
Mostly because even we use general OOP, we did not really split much our implementation and our technology that we use and our business logic. We oftenly did not like if we don't think about architecture, how we implement this stuff is same example as I show here. So we think, okay, we will use MySQL. So how we will store the data here in MySQL? Okay, we need two users, we need two cards here, right? Okay, we need two tables with this data. We need relationship, build this process. After that, we create storage, how we actually store it. Okay, and think, okay, we need get card by ID, get user by ID, get card for the user, and save user, insert user, update user, delete user, like delete card, and after that we think, okay, we create all this database layer, and we create our application. And in our application, when we create user, we use these methods from the repository. Let's call it same, from the repository. And later, if you want to migrate to other database, for example, if you want to use Redis don't have like get user by ID or something like this. You need to really rewrite a lot of your application layer code. But if follow this architecture, if you need to change something, you need to change you will change only one layer, and it will not affect your core application. So this one will always be the same, but this one you can change easily. Yes.
What is the other two side of the hexagonal? You show us only 4.
Yeah. Sorry. It's not meaning hexagonal. It's not meaning it should be 6 sides. It can be octagonal, pentagonal, like it can be square. Yes, square. It's a very rare situation, but I mean, so instead of driving adapter, it's always something that controls your application. Actually, in like our Node backend, it can be web service, or it can be Kafka. Or Kafka, it can be messaging queue, like Kafka, like SQS, like something control application. In this part, we can a lot in real project. It's not 3, it's not 3 adapters. Never. It's like 40 adapters, something like this, because you need to really communicate with a lot of like stuff in real project. So it should not should not be only 6. It's just cool name. It's by the way, it's also called port and adapters, but I mean like hexagonal sounds so cool.
I think the model is quite good, but from what I see, do you have a problem that when you create a lot of adapter and you're losing some performance because of it has to pass the adapter before it going to the real endpoint or something like that?
No, not really. No, I mean like it's. No, I don't think it will pass any, because it's not passed like 20 adapters, It's just passed only one adapter. It's not, I don't think it's any performance issue here. It depends how you write the code. If you write your adapter bad, it will be performance. If you write good, it will be good. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From what you described, I have the feeling that at one point, if you, let's say for the beginning, decided to use, let's say, MongoDB as your main database, and we all know that MongoDB doesn't have a relationship, let's forget about Populate of Mongoose. I think that this can dictate how you write your application layer to the fact that you need, let's say, 2 entities. For the main page, you need products and 10 of top reviews.
No, actually, you said it's like not like how we develop in normal application. But if you develop it there, we don't think about database. We don't think about how we'll store it. We just write our logic, and after that, we think about how we'll store it.
What was the point actually of my question? Don't you think that abstracting these layers might hinder you from using the good parts of certain systems, let's say databases?
Sometimes, yes. That's actually a good question. Sometimes, yes. In practice, I never had this issue. I said when really apply this, never had this issue that, but I'm as well thinking about that. So because if what need to think about abstraction. If you abstract like I did here, maybe it's maybe something. If you really need some kind of, but you know, it's mean if you have some problems in this layer. It's mean before when you think about that you have problems in this layer. So like if you need two entities, like you said, you need to store two entities. You must write import to methods to store these entities. You know, that's meaning. If you and after that think how you will store this.
Yes, but okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's possible.
In the beginning, you're
yes.
thinking about a document database, which doesn't give you joins, let's say,
yes.
And you build your application layers with that, with thinking that you will get into entities, like
yes.
one, then the second one, but later on you want to switch to MySQL or some other relationship database, and you can come to the point that your code is not optimal because you don't use joins.
Yes,
and
yes, it is possible. Yes,
okay.
I said it is possible actually.
And do you have some issue? Do you have some ideas how we can overcome that, or?
I mean, you. Yes, you already. I mean, if you think about that, you lose flexibility here. You know, so you cannot do so big abstraction here. As well, if you really have some think about, oh, my application really have some problem with for example, as you said, your performance and not about like very specific problem with performance, you know. So yeah, probably you don't need to write so much abstraction here. But again, with this one, you will lose the. So if you go there, you will lose. Your like universally, so you cannot really after that change but it will be you again. If you change, you will lose your performance. So yeah, it's true.
Honestly, for the right you should get the repository porter or the repository interface the join option. If you don't put
Yes. You need carefully design this one actually, especially with database, because this like Mailchimp very easy. This one very easy, yes. Like as well. But with database here, you need to be very careful here.
I totally agree with that. But at one certain point, like even if you didn't exactly choose your technology you will use for the database, you already have something in mind, and that dictates how you write a domain layer and application layers in the end.
You know, sometimes yes, but I have to be honest. In my real life, I have experience from the start of presentation. I talk about Redis, right?
Yeah.
And in my one of real project I worked before, it was this problem. You think, oh, Redis very fast. Let's do Redis, and we start to do MVP on Redis, and we have like so many customers, crazy. And because of we did not really implement any repository, anything very related to Redis. Yes, of course, if we implement from the start this one, and after that from Redis migrate to MySQL, yes, of course, we lose our performance, but we save very much time, really, and money as well. Yes. One more question.
Okay, Georgie, so I have to be really honest, I missed a lot of your talk because I was outside having a talk with a gentleman. But I have to say, from all my years of coding, there's one instance which has always been a pain point. I think this doesn't matter what architecture you use. So from a point of that, I don't really know too much about your talk, etc. I see it's quite aggregated. There's a lot of like microservices, etc. So when it comes to use case of where we have a lot of internationalization within our platform, so lots of languages, different variants of data, etc. How do we keep performance, deal with internationalization? So from the question to the gentleman that was just talking, if we haven't got a concept of a left join, for instance, where we have an ordering system, where we have a menu, we have food, et cetera, et cetera. So someone who comes from a NoSQL background will know that if we want a history of orders for a particular item, we have to have multiple rows in the databases, in the database if we use something like MongoDB or DynamoDB for one order, and we duplicate the data per language in the database table. Like, how would your structure that you just explained approach this?
This one not really related to database, right? Like, it's in your, again, let's return here. In your repository report, you have one field in your interface. You have a property called date, and it's always should return in proper way, in like this current language, right? You're talking like about this, right? So, and inside the adapter, you think about all this stuff. This part don't need to think about any language. It's already have date and already have language in it. Or yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because when it comes to abstraction of data on a linguistic level, so for instance, in a relational database, I can have a menu and link a particular order item
just
to a...
write it here. Write it inside adapter. This application layer should not think about that. Should not even know about that you have like all this abstraction.
But if it was a NoSQL database, the NoSQL database would have no knowledge of previous languages that was not in existence when the orders were made.
So
time.
you need to implement this stuff.
So my question is, with this particular data structure, how do you approach internationalization? So for instance, I'll give you a very quick example.
Yeah.
How a lot of people deal with this is they deal with dictionaries. So if I was in an application where I've gone into this person's restaurant and I've added a language years and years later, and then I want to look into the history of my orders, then we would populate the front end with a language dictionary so that we could be able to pull out the corresponding language for that corresponding order. But if it was without the concept of a left join, how would you deal with such an architecture? Because
no, I mean when you what you're talking now, it's like better architecture already. So front end should not really think about this one, right? It should just display the data.
Sure.
So it should not really think, if you have 100 languages, what you will do, like return to front end now 100 languages. It's not really great idea. Inside this, okay, if relationship, very easy to implement, right? But if not relationship, okay, much harder to implement. But you still can implement. And actually, I think if you implement it in MySQL and in Redis it will work faster. It will be like a lot of code, but it definitely will work faster. So it's kind of still, I think it's kind of still about this implementation. I mean, if your business logic is related to language, if like for one language you process like this, or for other language process like this, of course this layer should know about everything, about languages, but if it's like kind of displaying the order in some language, this layer should not think about that. Just implement it here. Yes, you might be have issue with performance, or you might be, but still, if you have, especially if you have wrong decision, like from the start with this example, if you think, okay, we'll do Mongo, and after you start implementing, and you understand, Mongo not really great for this, and you easily can switch to MySQL, for example. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I have a silly question, which is a not question. When should you not be using this framework? When would you not use this framework? And when have you not used it yourself?
If it's small application, that I will not fully use it. I still little bit will use it. I still will separate layer, application layer from web for sure, and still will implement like kind of repository. Maybe not like so abstract, but we'll implement it. But if it's really small application like small REST API with simple logic, with some kind of return some articles or something like this without anything, yeah, probably I will not go for it because still it's very complex. I mean, for small, maybe later I will hate myself from the past, but probably I will not go for it for small application with simple logic.
I have one question and one comment. Can you go back with the show the architecture?
Yeah.
Normally what we do in the day by day, we are very used to the web development, right? But imagine that you are a Slack, okay? You develop from web and mobile and also the desktop version. This kind of architecture will be very useful because all your application layer can be reused across
everywhere.
all these platforms. You only need to re-implement the UI. You re-implement the UI layer for web, for mobile, and desktop. From application to domain, you can reuse.
Yes.
I still see some of the value, and when you have some of the user cases like that. My question is, nowadays in a microservice architecture, I use it a lot, Hexagonal, 5-7 years ago in big enterprise Java application, C# application, with a very inspired by DDD, domain driven design, and was very, very useful for you to break a monolith in different pieces and help you to manage the complexity of the software easily. But in a world where we are shift to microservice, you are breaking your application in small pieces. In your opinion, do you think it still have space for this kind of architecture?
Yes, actually I have, for the Node, I will not say like this, I have a lot of experience to implement this for Kotlin microservices. And it's actually good. It's a bit, again, it's a bit more complex, but it's actually very good to, even for microservices that do. And for microservices, it's become really easy. It's become like this, like 3 adapters, one or two like driving adapters, like 3 driving adapters, and very, very easy to implement actually. And like first time you build pattern, you just build folder structure and make like kind of boilerplate. And next microservice, so easy to implement again. And power of this that you can, in Node, I know we don't really do this much, but like in Java world, a lot of backend code really, when you write like backend, you don't really run all this infrastructure in your machine, right? So you need to cover by unit test very high. Here because so easy to write unit test here. And I can see, actually, I can show. And it's like, this project is like 100% coverage. And you just write test, just run it, and you don't think about, much about, if it works or if it's not. It's really good for microservices as well, because you don't really need to run, you see, like 100% coverage.
Okay, it's never go in production because all green. We want the red.
Yes, little bit red we like, but here 0, maybe it's okay.
All right, can
Impossible.
All right.
Yeah, in real life maybe impossible, but
okay.
Yeah.
I add something a little bit as well. So for this pattern, we here use it for the front end as well in order to create a reusable kind of component in React. But anyway, this is the main principle to create, different layer for things. Like when we create the reusable component, we kind of like, when we do prop, we kind of like, all right, this is the thing that we need for this component. And if you got, let's say, for example, you got some data from the API or whatsoever that different, what we do is that we add another layer to do the transformation to convert the data from the API to map with the actual UI itself. So in that way, you can reuse the UI in different places without changing the prop according to the data that you get back from the API. So I think it's really useful pattern. Yeah. Good. Any more question? Otherwise, season's waiting.
Yes.
Yeah. And we are hiring.
Okay, hello guys. So, hello. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about the future of Node.js. So we already discussed the past and its impact and its current state. Now it's time to discuss the future. So we have been using Node.js for almost like 10 years. And so we have been using Node.js for like almost 10 years, and we have like, it's no longer being used by only startups now. A big enterprise like Netflix, PayPal, they are also already using it. So that means like Node has grown, and the trend of using Node has grown a lot. And in recent years, like a new, I would not say competitor, but a new sibling. Hello. So a new runtime engine, similar as Node, was introduced. So, and it's time that we discuss, because it might be the future, it might not, but we need to get to know what it is. So yeah, so it's time for us that we talk about Dino. And yeah, so the logo is cool. So yeah, today, so I'll be going through a bit about a brief history. Okay, so yeah, basically I'll be talking about what is Deno, why was it invented, and is it going to replace Node soon? And I also will show you some demo. So yeah, basically the question many people will ask is like, if Deno is similar to Node, why was not Node improved? Why was Deno created? So yeah, we will also be talking about those things here. So in brief, I will try to explain what is Deno. The first thing we should know about Deno is like Deno is invented by Ryan Dahal, who is the creator of Node. And yeah, he's the guy, Ryan. So yeah, and in short, Deno is a runtime engine for JavaScript. And Ryan Dahal introduced Deno during his talk in 2018, where it was titled 10 Things He Regrets About Node.js. So Deno was recently made stable, and we want to know how the community is doing. On this year, May 2020, yeah, this year, May, so Deno 1.0 was released, and it has been making a lot of buzz, like in the Node.js community, I would say. And many people are like looking forward for using Deno. Can I get a hand, like how many use TypesScript? Oh, okay. So cool. So yeah, for people who use TypeScript with Node, it is like a really good invention, I would say, because you are no longer required to install TypeScript compiler anymore when you use Node. And yeah, like the community is like always like critical of when something new comes. Like some people criticize, some people say it's good. Even when React was introduced back in the day, it was compared with PHP, where it says like the syntax matches with the PHP, and why should we use it? But look at right now, React is like really popular now. So here are some fun things I found within the community. So yeah, like Node was just introduced in 2018. It was started, but it was stable just now. But yeah, people are already looking for job experience of 3 to 5 years. And yeah, this guy cracked actually how the Dino name was found. Like, so it's actually an anagram of Node. So by 2019, we hope it will be done. So people are really excited, and yeah, the community is really looking forward for Dino. So going along with the slides, so in basic, what is Dino made up of? So Dino is basically using Rust, and for a fact, it was started using Go language. So, but the creator found some issues with Golang, some issue with garbage collection, and I'm not sure if it still exists, but maybe some Go I can inform later. But so yeah, because of some issues, so he moved from Go to Rust, and it still uses V8 under the hood, but it is under something called Rusty V8 to connect with the normal V8. And Tokyo is the event loop. If you are using Node.js, you might know something called libuv, so which is the under the hood event loop, and yeah, it's the heart of the engine. And yeah, for the TypeScript people who uses Node, TypeScript compiler is built in, so yeah, it's something people are looking forward for and really excited about. So let's discuss why Node was introduced. Why Dino was introduced. So like any other developer, like Ryan Dahal found some issues with his code when he looked back in his Git logs. So, and there are actually 10 things he pointed out, but I'm going to talk about few things. One of the major thing is the security. So V8 that is under the hood is actually secured by default. It's a sandbox environment, but Node, when it runs it exploits it. Like you can give it almost all the permission of the host. So one of the major issues was with the security. So, and another issue is with package.json. So this, I would say, is very opinionated. Like some developers might like it, some developers may hate it, but it depends. But for Ryan, he does not like the use of package.json. He does not feel that we should just use one file to write what we depend on. And yeah, of course, the node modules, like it's the heaviest object in the universe, so there's that. And something else, the indexed.js. Yes, this is something I also do not like, because if you are going to export default or imports, make it as a root file, why don't we name it in a proper way? Like, let's say if you have a main folder, name, let's say products, why don't you just name product.js? So yeah, this is one of the things he hates about it. And also with not sticking with promises. So when he started, he actually used promise, but later down the way he removed it, but was added back. And the final thing that I would say is really important is require without extension. So this is something that we should be, okay, let's say in browser, when we import something, we normally give it a full URL and give it a extension also. But when in Node, when we are trying to import something, let's say even JavaScript, TypeScript, we let the Webpack, let's say we let the Webpack resolve it for us. So the reason he mentioned this is like he wants to make Node similar to behave like browser environment, but it was not possible. So to fix this issue, he created a new Deno. So in his in the Deno, you can also say it's Deno 2.0. Node 2.0. So he has fixed all the issues he felt was wrong in this design. And he fixed those, and yeah, some of the extra features were added. Like now, Dino by default is very secured, so I will demo this in the coding session. And it also supports TypeScript out of the box. So you are no longer required to install some extra ingredient to run your TypeScript code to convert it to JavaScript. And it also ships a single executable. It's called just Deno, capital Deno, so I will also demo that part. And something that has been inspired from Go is the built-in inspector and code formatter. So yeah, it's something that exists in Go, and it also exists in here. And something else we will see in the demo is something called top-level await. Like we have never seen such a great thing out there. So I'll just demo it in. And also, like it has a well-designed module system. Like this Deno is like very modular. Like under the hood, it uses Rust with crates, I believe. So you can actually download and plug in your own code if you want. So yeah, should we go for Dino? My answer would be no. And I would give you more detail on why. So here are some facts. So Node is now no longer being maintained only by Ryan himself. It's maintained by a huge community. So we need to take it into consideration. So like big enterprise like Amazon, Netflix, eBay uses Node.js. And they have also found that it's a survey, like I have a link to here, which you can see later, that 43% of the Node.js developer use it actually for enterprise application. And something else with Node right now is like the learning curve is very low. Like if you are doing some JavaScript code in the front end, it's easy for you to pick up in the back end and start working on it. And Node is still performant and it's scalable. Like PayPal has seen a significant decrease in the response rate when they moved from, I think, Java to Node.js. Yeah, and yeah, it's also is well suited for microservices. So we normally nowadays tend to build our application in microservice architecture. And also the survey also found out that there are 49% of the developer use the Node for the framework, library, and tools. So this is something Dino will have to come up in future, but it does not exist right now. So bluntly, you cannot compare Dino's 2 years of work with Node's 10 years of work. So Node is still stable, and it still powers a lot of enterprise apps. And yeah, Node is maintained by the huge community. Yeah, a lot of people are currently using Node and maintaining it. And we actually do not know the performance of Dino in the production yet because it was just released, the stable version. So we are yet to know. So if you are going to start a new project now and you found Dino, it's better to stick with Node. And if you actually don't believe what I'm saying, you can believe Dal himself, who says Node isn't going anywhere. Just stick with it if you are currently using it. And yeah, he did talk about this during his talk, because I'm not bullshitting, just to give. So I put a slide and a link to his talk where he mentioned this. It's just for enthusiasts, and so do not panic. And ignore this talk if it is not for you. So the next thing is we are going to do some coding session. I'll just show you some brief demo. Is it okay? Okay. Okay. Let me. So okay, I'll just start with some very basic Dino. So I have installed the CLI version 1.4.1, and this is what I'm talking about. You can actually find everything when you just type the capital command Deno. You'll receive everything. So it also has the RDPL. So I will try to first demo you something about the security. I mentioned like Deno is secured out of the box. So how is it possible? So yeah, I have a ct.json file. So let's say I want to read this file. So yeah, so read text file. So this is something Dino gives. And yeah, let's say I just want to print it. I don't want to do anything funny. Data, sol.log, data. So, and let's say I want to run it. So, okay, I made a mistake. It's not mode.js. It should be mode.ts. Let me reload. So let's say I try to run it. So we get the permission issue. Yeah, let me just show you. So as you can clearly see, like we are not allowed to read anything. So we need to give it an explicit permission. So this is one of the focal point of using Dino. So you just give it a permission like allow read mode.ts, and yes, you can easily read it. Also, let's give a demo on. I prepared some gist for the demo. Yeah, this is I copied actually from the Dino LAN itself to that serves a website. So let's try to run it. By default, this will try to block you because you are trying to access the internet. So this is one of also the security feature where you are blocked. And yeah, like during development, this might be very painful, like you're trying to allow everything one at a time. So there is a command that is called -a that gives you all the explicit permission. Boom. So yeah, let's see if it works or not. I hope it works. Yeah, it just works. And okay, there is something really interesting. If you look at the code, I used the code directly from the internet. So there is something interesting I would like to show you. You can run actually the code directly free from the internet. So let's say I have a code that I hosted in Gist, and I will just try to run the same code. Let's see first. Yeah, let me stop this. So I'll just try to run it. Oops. So yeah, I'll first get the permission issue. Dino. Yeah, this gets. So yeah, as you can see, I just downloaded the code directly from the internet. Like you can host it on any public site and you can just run it. So this is also one of the cool features of Dino. And yeah, in the slide I did mention something about there is no more package.json. So how can we manage the packages? So let me show you some. Okay. So there are two ways to do it. So this is the first way where you just put something called deps.ts and you export everything right from here, and you can just import it in your files. So this is one of the ways. And another way that you can actually import the packages is actually from something called import maps. So yeah, this was not documented previously, but now I saw that it is actually well documented in the Dino website. So you can actually just put all the imports in one file under the imports, and I basically just import it. And yeah, something we should notice is like Dino does not support anymore the common JS import. Right now it supports ES6 imports. So yeah, this is a way we can import the files. And yeah, to run it, yeah, this is the way the command. I'm sorry. Oops. So yeah, when I was writing the demo, I was using an old version of Dino. So back then I was allowed to use this without the unstable flag, but they recently asked to use the unstable flag if you want to use this. Sorry, I'm in the wrong folder. So yeah, so you can run it in this way. And also I want to show you something about the Dino's formatting options. So let's say you have a very bad code, you forgot to put semicolons, and you can just do Dino FMT. So I think if anyone is using Go, maybe they can confirm, is it something similar? Yeah, so if I go back to the code, I will do reload of the code, and yeah, it's formatted. So this is something the Dino team has also been working on. And yeah, normally, as we know, we use Node.js for serving simple end, making a simple crude application out, let's say. So yes, I did make a simple application. And for this, I use something called Opine. So Opine is similar like Express, I would say. So with Opine, you can get, let's say, the router. You can get the router, and also you can get the app. Where is it? In here, yeah. So from Opine, I just created a simple server that will serve in /v1/router, and you can just start running this application. Okay, so, and normally if you see in my code previously, let's go to deps.ts. So right now I'm using the versioning, but let's say we can even use it without the versions, like we can import actually without the version. This will actually pick up the latest version out there. So if you are, there might be a chance that the packages might have been updated or there are new packages would have been installed. So you can just do, oh, sorry. Oops. It's stuck. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mac. Let me try to find a, okay, now it's working, I hope. So yeah, so if I want to reload the packages directly, use the latest one, I can just do Dino reload and just point it to wherever you are using. So in my case, I would just like to demo in the first one. Yeah, I have the deps.ts. Dino run, just as reload. So yeah, it will go and pick up the latest packages out there. So yeah. And I also mentioned something about something called top level of it. So I hope. So yeah, it's one of the cool stuff. It's cool. So what it basically does is like, I can write await on my main file without wrapping it with any asynchronous functions. And one thing you can notice is like it by default supports fetch. So you can just, you don't need to use any more a third-party dependency to make network requests. So yeah, let's see. yeah, so I need the -a because of the permission. So yeah, yeah, this is one of the cool features of Dino. And yeah, I am actually using a boilerplate. So yeah, this is actually a boilerplate that has been endorsed by Webpack. So if you are looking for a boilerplate for React, please go ahead. I will put this code in GitHub and share you the link later. And I also have something to show you regarding tests. Dino by default supports or has some test functionalities. In Node, when we have to do tests, we normally start looking for Chai or Mocha, and we never thought why Node never introduced it by default. So with Dino, yeah, you can actually have it actually gives you the test framework, and you are no longer required to search for an option. You can just use what it has, and yeah, it is also one of the dependencies, so yeah, it's constantly updated and yeah, used. So yeah, I think that's all the demo I have. So any Q&As? Anyone question?
So my first question is, say there is a TypeScript RC version 1, for example, right? It's not released yet.
Okay.
How will Dino allow me to use that? So that's the first question.
So yeah, so Dino uses TypeScript under the hood, and yeah, it needs to be updated by the Dino team. And if I remember, I can just use Dino info to find the current TypeScript version. Dino. Oops, I don't remember the command.
Okay, I have a second question. I understood this part.
Yeah.
So the second question is, in npm, what I can do is npm run eject or npm run generate something, npm run something, right? I can create my own commands. How do you do that in Dino?
So in Dino right now, you just run the file by just using the run command. So I have still not yet figured out how we can probably, my hypothesis is like there should be a file where you can actually write all those scripts, but I still have not found out, sorry. But yeah, it should be out there. But right now, we just use Dino run command, like that's there. Yeah.
So my question is like, how do you publish a package in Dino?
Oh yeah. So yes, so publishing a package on Dino. So yeah, Dino, if you go to dino.land, you will find there is some standard libraries and there is like a third-party modules. And yeah, actually I created a simple package to test recently. It's, I think, called Star Wars. Yeah. So this is just for testing that I added. So it basically does nothing special. Like, so if you go to the modules.ts, it just goes to a particular website, then it fetches the code, and I'm using of it. So when I actually call this command, I actually get the file. So actually, if I can run it, so let's see if I run it. Let's do this. Let's not forget the -a. Sorry, it's called quotes. So yeah, it basically goes to the site, and yeah, you get a quote from Star Wars. And yeah, something adding a package is right now straightforward, but yeah, it needs to be. It depends on the version. So yeah, if in the third-party module, there is something called add a module, and you can just add a particular module name in here, and you have to give it a GitHub hooks. And so yeah, if I show you my repository, I will, it's just like tags. So yeah, there's like basic tags. Yeah, I was actually testing this. So yeah, if there is a new tag, it will update back in the Dino repository. Oh yeah, something I wanted to show you. Yeah. So if you want to see any dependency that's related with the package, you can just do Dino info and give the URL, and it will give you all the list of dependencies that it actually has. So yeah, I hope it clears. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you everyone. So I hope you got something about Dino and you'll probably use it. So yeah, bye.
Okay. Hey guys. Probably I'm Wicky from Flow Account. So does anyone know what Flow Account is? It's basically software as a service for cloud accounting. Do your accounts online because it's COVID, something like that, probably. And yeah, we provide a platform where people come up and people sign up and do accounting and payroll. And we just launched a new one called AutoKey, where it's basically an OCR application for people to upload the expenses and you know, kind of copy paste there. It OCR the text and then you just copy paste the text over to make it quicker instead of keying by hand. So we are evolving as a platform, and we are having more apps coming out. So there's always a need for good framework and good tools to be used. And to evolve as a platform, you always need to organize your code. That's why I'm here today to talk about the mono repository and how we use the serverless applications. So what is the life of a developer? As a developer, you don't want to get bogged down in configuring your machine so it runs some code, it runs some repository, and then you can develop it. Sometimes you got to configure your machine for 2 days before you develop some code. Anyone passed that experience before? Yeah, you know, Android SDK most probably, and people who use .NET or old versions of the software. Or if you don't have a mono repository, what happens? You kind of like have maybe 5 VS Code open, so you can work on 5 different small microservices, and then connect them together through 5 different pods or something like that, right? No single entry point where you can manage all of them. That's a good thing about mono repository. And in mono-repo, basically, the branch management is done through a trunk-based development. So everything always gets merged into master as fast as possible so that your code is updated. There are ways to do that, and there are catches for it as well, because sometimes you can skip code review and then you get a bug on production without a proper regression test. That happens a lot of time for us as well. But the good part for it is the CI/CD pipeline is pretty neat. You need only one CLI to configure your CI/CD. You don't need like 5 places where you have 5 configs or different repository, different configs. Just one config, one CI/CD, and if we do it well, or if anyone does it well, it does deploy to the So it does deploy to whatever is affected in the code. So if you have 20 applications in the code and you change the code, it affects 3, the CI/CD would deploy only to 3 of them if we do it well. Means that we don't do it well enough. That's why we are still doing some of it manually, right? And it does allow you to share codes, like the share codes, share libraries, or maybe you just saw the Hex architecture, right? That those things or those libraries, those repositories can be shared within the same repositories itself. So you don't repeat yourself, you don't copy paste the code, and you don't have to publish the code onto NPM and make it an NPM module and yarn it and package it. Every time there's a change, you have to do that all around so that you can use a new code. That's not needed in a mono repository. Basically, this is the reason why we chose to go this way. It speeds us up, and then it allows us to develop much faster. And this is what we use, NX. So basically, I know about NX from such meetups. And then I go home, I spend time maybe till 3 a.m. reading what it is and testing it out. And the next day I go to the office and go, guys, we gotta go for NX. There's no choice, we gotta do it. We gotta do it right away. And then I start coding it for like maybe 3 to 4 days, and then I start moving the teams over. And then today, I can say that all our front end, all our nodes, and all our serverless are on NX. The only things that are not on NX are just .NET application. It will come sooner or later because we use .NET 4.7, so it's harder to come, but it'll come. .NET Core can be in there. There's a way to do it. It's just that you get bogged down with so many things, right? And NX have launched this community about early this year. Early this year, there was only 3 plugins. Today, you can see that there are 16 of them, right? Is my math wrong? I'm not sure. Yeah, 16 of them. And it's growing. It's not just React, it's not just Angular, it's not just Node. You can see there's Go as well, and there's documentations for it as well. So these tools actually help you to quickly produce something. Instead of getting bogged down in what tools you need to use for which language, in one repo, you can actually produce all these things. You can see that there's Vue already, and they're considering moving Vue to their core plugins. So yeah, this is the tool. This is the future. This is what Microsoft and Google does. And this tools actually comes from the 2 guys that work in Google, in the Angular team, comes out, create this tool as a consulting firm, and now there are really a lot of people adopting it. So yeah, go home, try it out at 3 a.m., and tomorrow go shout at your team, right? Well, serverless. Now we come to explaining the serverless first before we join them together. So serverless is really hot. I think everybody heard of it. Some guys have used the serverless framework. Some guys have used the SAM CLI, Azure Functions, Google Cloud Functions. There you go. And I never used kubeless. Anyone used kubeless before? Not really, right? I guess in the end, only the most popular 2 or 3 survive, right? Then the future is also serverless. Why? Because in the software world, you always have those guys at the back of the room, right? Running some tasks maybe 10 times a day, maybe 100 times a day. And then there's a guy at the front that run the task maybe 50,000 times in 1 minute. So the guys that run the task concurrently a lot and continuously doesn't need serverless. Because in serverless, you still need servers. At the end, it's just servers, right? You just don't have to manage them. But if you put some workload that needs a lot of concurrency and a lot of CPU to serverless, what happens? Without managing them, it blows up. The customer is unhappy. They start calling you at 200 calls per 10 minutes, and then your company breaks down, right? So you always have to have that barrier of when to go serverless. So the task that goes serverless is some tasks that are asynchronous and not happening all the time, right? Like an e-commerce, right? No one is gonna buy from you at 10 times a minute or 100 times a minute. Maybe in Lazada, yes, but at a basic e-commerce, like you sell furniture, if you sell a furniture at 1,000 furnitures a minute, then you're a rich guy. You can afford servers. But then otherwise, that doesn't happen, right? So that's where you kind of need serverless. And it does makes you rethink all your workflow, rethink all your architecture again. So if one day, like me, that you want to move your server full function to a serverless architecture, you need to plan it out properly. We planned our first serverless architecture out over 2 months, executed in 1 month, and then it fails. It took us another month to actually deploy it live because you got to make error, right? Like my baby would go to the socket of electricity and put her finger in there because you learn from failing. If you don't fail, you don't learn. Basically, that's what it is, right? Now, what is serverless framework? Serverless framework, they write it as an open source, and they sell the enterprise edition for CI/CD features, right? The open source is a YAML or YAML config file that you can configure your events, you can configure your API parts, and then they have their CLI. You can run on top of the CLI and then deploy it online, deploy it on your clouds of choice, like AWS, Azure, or Google. So it's not cloud-centric. It's more agnostic. You can use it for different cloud vendors, and then the format is pretty much the same. Just the code is a little bit different. And that's what serverless framework does. It have a lot of plugins, it have a lot of tools, it have a lot of helpers that help you create cloud resources like CloudWatch, events, and logging inside one file. Declare different network connections inside one file or network config inside one file and just deploy it up. The good part about it is also you can break down the YAML file into different files and require it in a proper manner so it becomes your config folder, a config repo, right? Then you can deploy it up. So that's what serverless framework does. It just reduces the time for anyone to learn native CLI or for AWS it's SAM CLI. So it reduces time for you to learn that. It's a YML file as well, but it reduces your time, right? Then, so that's the serverless framework. Now I'm going to talk about some patterns. Anyone write a lot of serverless? Anyone? Oh, you do, right? You have fun with it?
Absolutely no.
So that's what I'm going to talk about first, the anti-pattern. So the first thing that when someone comes up to me and say, hey, I'm having this problem. This lambda needs this lambda, right? This function needs the output of the other function. Can I call it that? Yes, this is the classic mistake. So the first thing you never do is you never call one function from another function inside a serverless world. You either call the function, save the data in a database or in a file somewhere or in a state somewhere, and then the other function gets triggered and it reads that output. Otherwise, you're going to have hell, right? And then that hell is not going to be nice because you don't want to get bogged down in fixing production code at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning the next day, right? And the next anti-pattern is recursion. So some of them call the function, the first function calls the second function, and the second function calls the first function back for some output. And that's also another hell. So you don't write recursions in serverless. How small is too small? Sometimes you think one function, atomic function, it just does one thing, 1 + 2, but that's too small. It needs to do more. Serverless has servers behind it. You can assign some more work to it. What happens when it's too small? When it's too small, you have maybe 200 functions that you have to handle. That's also a nightmare. You have to have a middle part. I mean, we are a Buddhist country. We believe in middle part, right? So you got to have a middle part, and that's the point. Asynchronous is not always your friend. Who have like sit through maybe 3 hours of debugging a wait and a sync? Anyone ever done that? What happens? A wait, it doesn't wait, right? It just skips. It doesn't get the output and there's a bug, but where is this bug coming from? And you just sit through 3 hours and you realize that your asynchronous function is not working properly. Most probably, it happens in your for each, right? If you don't use RxJS, it does happen in your for each. And sharing code is the most important thing. In a serverless world, you need to share your logics. You need to share your business logic. You need to share your models. You need to share all the common stuff. Because if you don't share it, you end up repeating yourself. And when you're repeating yourself certain amount of times, when someone asks you to fix one word, let's say my name is Vicky, fix it to W-I-K-I, right? And then you end up finding 10 places to fix that because you don't share your code and you repeat yourself by Control-C, Control-V. And in an organization, to share your code means communication, right? Communication through tools. We use GitHub, communication to talking, communication to asking your friends, and that's the most important part in a serverless framework. You need to not repeat yourself. Now, these are the example patterns that is actually good. So the first pattern is client. How do you use this thing? Hold on. Can I use it? Forget it. So there's a client and there's a Lambda function, and that's a basic API. So that might be just a Hello World API, or that might be just like a calculation API, or let's say a charge API. You want to charge your customer some money. So that API is just a basic one. The client calls the charge, sending information, and it just go and charge the money or insert something into the database. And that's a simple one. A fan out. What do we do with a fan out? So there is an event that need to call maybe 5 different things, right? What is an example of that? So lately, what happens is we have a production and a pre-production environment, but we don't want to separate the database of both, right? So we use a fan-out method where we send the event to an SQS, that's a queue, simple queue service, or we send it to store somewhere where it can fan it out to 2 lambdas. One is a production lambda, one is a pre-production lambda. And then we decide in those functions if it needs to execute itself, if this event is for me or not. And that can be used at many points. Because sometimes you have an event and you need your functions to decide if it needs to execute itself or not, or you need 3 functions to execute at the same time. So you use these kind of patterns, right? The other one is an aggregator. Who doesn't know what an aggregator is? So I'll explain that a bit. So, all right. You understand the word for sure, but yeah. So does anyone have to write a dashboard in their life? A dashboard where it shows how much sales has happened today? Or how many people visited the website today? And what usually happens is, oh, it's easy, just count the database, right? But that's wrong, because after counting for a while, your index goes bust, and then the server crashes because there's too many people or too many sales, right? And that's good for everyone. Anyway, the aggregator does, what it does is the Lambda calls the database once in a while when there is an action. So when, let's say when someone buys from you, right? You call the database, you save it to the database, and you also save a value that is a total value in another database. Maybe it's just a state database like DynamoDB, right? Or a state database like MongoDB. You save the aggregated value, the total value, so that you can use it out later. Or you want to compile some information for reports, right? So you have like a daily event. On top there, you can see that there's a building-like structure. It's like a CloudWatch. You can schedule a daily event for it so that it aggregates some reporting value and save it as a ready report that you can call from your state database. And you can use that right away. You don't have to call the database. You don't have to get bogged down into what link query or what query doesn't screw up, or what join functions doesn't screw up your performance, right? You don't even have to go through code review. It'll pass right away. I'm pretty sure about that. And the next one is schedule events. So I just explained that. Basically, you schedule an event, it triggers a Lambda, and the Lambda creates a queue, and the Lambda triggers another Lambda. This is what I'm talking about. Some people will make a simple mistake where the second one will call the first Lambda will call the second Lambda right away without keeping a state somewhere. And that's where something can screw up. What happens if the output doesn't come out? What happens if it's lost in the air? What would you tell your boss, right? Oh, it's lost in the air. I don't know what happened. I mean, I hear that a lot, right? Example patterns, again, pub sub. Who is familiar with push notifications? I mean, you get it on your phone every day. Come on, everybody, right? So how can you do push noti? How can you do push notifications? You use a pub/sub. The simplest way, one of the simplest ways is using a publish subscription method, right? On the website or on the mobile, there are other ways like using a WebSocket or using a web server event or something like that. But there is a pub/sub where you can have a live connection. It's basically a WebSocket. So what happens is the user is connected to some sort of WebSocket that connects to Redis. Everyone knows Redis, right? We just gone through it just now, right? The Redis icon, they connect to the Redis icon, and then the user calls the API gateway. The API gateway is a facade. It's like a gateway to know that where this request have to go to. So if you call charge, it has to go to this Lambda. We set it up like that. Otherwise, there's so many API endpoints and then so many domains that it's impossible to track. So the facade sends it to Lambda. Lambda just calls the database, aggregate it to DynamoDB. DynamoDB or a MongoDB will trigger another Lambda that saves data into a cache, Redis cache. And because Redis cache has the ability to publish things when data changes, so it published that to the user. The user sees the changes right away, right? It might not be the same user. This might be your dashboard. This is what a live dashboard is, basically. Someone buys, you buy stuff from me, right? And then the Redis publish stuff to you. You see on the dashboard right away, someone bought it, you know? This is how it's done, pub/sub pub/sub pattern. The other one is ELT. Everyone knows ELT, right? Elastic, what is it? Extract. ETL, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix it right away. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Yes, that's the startup way, right? So ETL, extract, transform, and load. Where do you load the data to? You load the data to somewhere like Redis, somewhere like Elasticsearch in here, so that you can query many billions record of data to make sense of it. Who is a data scientist? Oh, okay. This is basically where they come in. And that's what you have to do for them, basically. And in Amazon, there is a service called Firehose. Firehose is like a data stream where you throw millions of records to it. And it will slowly, it will call transform at Lambda, transform the data, save it into a backup as well on S3. And after transforming the data, it saves to maybe a DynamoDB or Aurora, you know. And then once it's saved, or it doesn't even save, sorry, it transforms the data using the DynamoDB or Aurora, right? And then once it transforms the data, it saves back into the Elastic cache. And then people can query from Elastic cache. But the most important thing here is the backup, because Elastic cache is not persistent. If it's lost, you need to reload the data. So always keep a backup. And that's it. That's the patterns. And so after the pattern, let me change topic for a bit. We wrote an open source called NX Serverless to go with NX mono-repo. Why did we write it? Because it's useful. If it's not useful, we won't have some downloads or some issues that people come in, right? So we wrote it to help us deploy, run, and develop serverless functions. How is it done? It's all written in TypeScript, right? In NX, most of the things are in TypeScript. We don't use JavaScript. And it's maintainable. Everyone loves TypeScript. Anyone still writing ES6, ES5 at their work? If you still do, then you gotta convince the boss of the boss to fire your boss or something like that, right? And it uses Angular schematics. Anyone knows what is Angular schematics? Yeah. That's why I'm here. So Angular Schematics is a tool in Angular framework that helps you AST your code, abstract and transform your code. So it can change your code. It's a tool where you changes your code according to what you want. You create a template, you generate the template, you generate your coding template. So you generate a function template or generate like a project template for your front end. Because when you start a front end project, you start it from nothing. Then what do? You add these modules, you add that module, you install Node module, and then you inject some library that you want to use, and then you make good Bootstrap or Bulma or Tailwind CSS. And you have to do that, and that takes maybe 2 to 3 days, right? To bootstrap a project. So schematics help you to bootstrap your project by running all this automated code and format it right away without you having to copy paste or do manual work, right? And everything is using Angular CLI. So what happens in the real world? You have a serverless CLI, a React CLI, a Vue CLI, a Node CLI, a Yarn CLI, maybe NPM or anything, right? But by writing our own tool, we are able to use only one CLI. It's a wrapper of Angular CLI. They call it NX CLI. It's very powerful. It kind of bootstrap your React, Nest, Next, serverless, and all the plugins that you see. It uses one CLI. And the other thing is that all your config, who has a problem of having too many configurations in too many folders, in too many files? You do, right? So what it helps is, so who is the config master here? If you change a config, you got to go to that guy. Who is that guy? So in this one, there's only one file. You write your configuration for all your projects in one file. That file.
You never know the production connection string. This is the point.
That's another story.
Yeah.
But the config to run, like your environment JSON, your string, your staging connection string, not production, and all your other stuff is in one file. It's just there. You use it there. You don't have to go to many of them, right? Now, the next step is organizing your stack. Because in a production stack, you need logs. There are choices of logs that you can use. Basically, we use both CloudWatch and Sentry. And Elastic, not there yet. We are trying to get there because we are trying to accumulate or aggregate all the logs into one place. But we need only the important logs. So what happens when you have 200 serverless functions? In CloudWatch, there are like 200 log stream. If you want to find something that's wrong with one function, you got to actually go to that stream, search out of 200 and go to that stream, and it's very difficult. So you have to think of a way to aggregate all the logs as well. So at the end of the tunnel, when you want to support your production environment, you got to either choose how to aggregate your log. You aggregate it in a log group in CloudWatch, or you aggregate it in Sentry, or you aggregate it by subscribing to CloudWatch from Elasticsearch. And then you only filters out what you want to see, what errors you want to see, what info you want to see. You can filter it out and put it in Elasticsearch and view your log or monitor it from there. I haven't talked about Grafana. We use that as well, but that's for more monitoring of CPUs and servers. But logs, we like Elastic because it's pretty useful. Now, coming back to production connection string, right? How do you get your production connection string once for every function in one code? So we use MIDI. Anyone knows MIDI? It's an onion, basically. And what it does is, before and after each serverless function gets called, it acts as a middleware that once the requests come in, it will execute the middleware. So if you have 10 of them, it'll execute 10 of them. So the first one might prepare your production environment connection string. The second one will prepare how you keep your logs. The third one will prepare how you handle your errors. That's before you call the function. That's before you execute it. After execution, what do you want to do? You want to send the log somewhere that it's successful, or you want to beautify your responses. Then it does that after. So MIDI is very helpful in a serverless world because it does ease up your work and put all your before and after actions, pre and post actions in one place. And in the middle is your serverless handler. Now, what is good about NX? I'm not selling it, but it's pretty good. It's the future. Exactly. You can run one command, and then it shows your dependency graph in your application. So whatever includes, or whatever, no matter how heavy your application is, no matter how layered it is, when you run the depth graph, you see what is using what. You see what is dependent on what. You see what your serverless function is dependent on. And then you catch the mistakes here that your serverless should not never be dependent on another API or another Lambda. You see it from here. And you can separate them from here because when in a mono-repo, when you push the code to master, it runs in the CI/CD and it deploys to your production environment. You don't want to fix one line of code and deploy to 200 functions. That's too risky. So what you do is you come here and you sit and see that, oh, we should separate what dependencies. We should group the functions to its own responsibility. Like the subscription should be in one place, depending on its own stuff. When I fix something about subscription, it should deploy only to subscription, not to events handling or not to ETL or not to user analytics, you know. So this is where you kind of like look into it and see if it works out. And that's a video with James on top. As I said, I've been doing it for so many times, right? So basically, when you run the npx create workspace, it installs everything for you to Angular schematics. You can choose what workspace you want to create, React or Angular. I'm an Angular guy, so I chose Angular. And once it installed the packages and the node module, which is the heaviest object in the universe, it takes some time, right? Even this is a fast video, it still takes some time. And then you can add a serverless function. The serverless function still installs some node modules that it needs. Once it's done, you can serve your application right away. And then you can start developing. So what you can add in the schematics is very powerful. You can add different things that your organization needs. It takes a bit of time, but it's worth it after it's done. And that's all it needs. You just work through the CLI and you get your first UI up, right? So I'm gonna do a bit of demo up there. Basically, I just generate an API with that command. And then it'll ask me what the name of the API I want to generate. I just say 7 peaks API number 2. I already generated number 1. And then the directory I want to generate it in. I choose API directory. What functions? Actually, this is a trick question because I only implemented AWS. And then it creates all the files for me. It updates the Angular JSON, the config file in nx.json. nx.json is to know what all projects you have in the mono repository. And it updates the package JSON, install the node modules. Now we wait. So for us not to be kind of awkward, today we just released AutoKey. I'll show you a video later as well. It's nothing to be, I'm not here to sell it, I'm just pretty proud of it. basically. And so everybody from here is, not everybody is from Seven Peaks, right? You gotta say, they have a really nice office, do you agree? And it makes you kind of like want to chill out. But then you gotta work as well, and that's the dev life, right? So, sorry? Exactly. I mean, Dino is going to be the future as well, right? But right now, I don't think there is a runtime in cloud provider that runs Dino. As soon as there is runtime, I probably use on production for sure. That's the good part about being a startup. You kind of like move really quickly. Fail fast to succeed fast, right? It's downloading Cypress? Come on. That means I haven't never downloaded Cypress before. So, anyone uses Yarn? What about NPM? So NPM wins. Any reason why NPM is better than Yarn? So there's a story behind that, right? It's 9%. I have the time to tell the small story. So Yarn was created because of managing the repository as well. It's not just a tool to install your packages. Because if you look at Yarn, there's a Yarn workspace plugin that Yarn comes with Yarn workspace. It kind of helps you manage your repository, help you manage your CI/CD as well. And then anyone heard of Lerna? Yeah, so Lerna comes after that or before, I'm not sure. After, to make Yarn, to deprecate Yarn workspace, right? But actually it works together, I think. And I have tried, in the first versions of NX, there's a useful scenario where you can use Yarn workspace tools to help you kind of like update your package version, update all your projects version to the same one, and then release it. But then after that, I think they make it better already right now, that you don't need all those tools anymore. So that's where NX comes in. It comes after Yarn and Lerna, right? To help make it language agnostic, to help make everything have one node modules, because node modules is heavy, and if you have 5 of them in your repository, your machine won't survive. Because we have some more time, can someone take a guess of how big a Google mono repository is? How many gigabytes? Okay, how big is your repo, basically? 10 megabytes? Yeah, without. 10 megabytes? Lesser than 10? More than 50? More than 100? No. For Google, it's, I read in an article, it says Google repo is 12 gigabytes. How long does it take me to clone the repo? Pretty not sure, right? Anyway, I think I can skip this. Let me skip it. And once you run it, it doesn't install Cypress all the time, maybe the first time. And you can serve it right away. What did I do? Oh, there is an Esther. Okay. It builds the TypeScript. That's a bad console log there. It builds the TypeScript, and then it starts serverless offline. Serverless offline is basically SAM CLI that allows you to test serverless on your own machine. And then it runs on the pod that you designated it to. And you can browse it. And there are parts in your serverless. I'll show that in a bit. And that's your first function, right? And that's easy. And then you go to development. In your workspace, in an NX workspace, you basically have an apps folder. Everything that is an app is generated in the app folder. I generated the API in the API folder. I think I need to refresh it. No? Okay, forget this. Maybe I'm in the wrong one. There you go. There you go. There it is. And then in a serverless application, you see your source file, which is the handler, and there. Your handler is returning that, right? But how does serverless framework know that you have a handler? So there's a YAML file that says that you have a handler that accepts a get method, and it's a hello world handler. And that's the part, right? Basically, that's the part in your browser when you browse it. And the dev is just a stage. So in a serverless world, you have stages: dev, pre-production, production, and that comes before your actual part. And we use a plugin called Serverless Offline to run it offline. There's an environment.json that I use here to help me differentiate between different environments. It can be env.json, env production.json, or anything like that, right? And that's the basic structure of an NX repository. It builds everything into a distribution, into a .js anyway, a minified one or a webpack one. And there's a library folder. That's where you share your code. So if anyone goes and play NX, don't share your code outside the libs. If you want to share your code, add it into the libs, generate a lib, and share it from there. Your library can be publishable or non-publishable. So a non-publishable doesn't ever have to go to Node modules. And publishable can be published to Node modules. But you got to remember one key is a publishable library cannot depend on an unpublished library. It won't work. That's their rule. And then you have your Node modules, one Node modules, not too heavy anymore, I hope. And yeah, that's about it. So let me get back to my slides. I think it's this one. Last slide. Conclusion. Choose carefully if your solution needs serverless, because it doesn't need all the time. We have a full stack of .NET application that doesn't need serverless, doesn't need to become serverless because of its heavy usage. And design is a key before implementing a serverless structure. You always have to use solid principles. Listen to the Hex guy. It's very important, because if you code without an architecture, without a solid principle, you cannot maintain, you cannot scale. And it will be dirty very quickly. And you got to use NX to help you manage your code. Never repeat yourself. Control copy, Control V, never do that. And yeah, we're always hiring. Anyone interested? Let us know. Any questions? Yeah.
So this API you now implemented here using the Yarn and so on.
Yeah.
It downloaded about 12 gigabyte of repository to do very little, I think.
No, the 12 gigabyte is for Google.
Well, it was very close to what you downloaded, I think, because there's a lot of packages and it didn't do very much in the end,
The package I added, probably downloaded, the most heavy is the serverless CLI that it downloaded. Because the serverless framework needs the serverless CLI to run, what I wrote is a wrapper to that CLI so that you don't have to learn that. Instead of learning that CLI, you use the NX. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
For the NX workspace, it does need some magic to it. Otherwise, it will not be able to do your AST. It will not be able to manage your repo properly. And Angular is pretty heavy as well. You got Angular core, Angular schematics. So those are the things that it downloaded.
So I have friends who have used serverless and Amazon Lambda, I think it's called, and Google Functions.
Yeah.
And at least previously, maybe 1 or 2 years ago,
yeah,
they said that the cost is about 10 times running your own server.
So you got to choose carefully.
Right, but if you're going to have to do it manually for half of it, and that's quite difficult, right?
So
when you get a volume, when you get a big volume, it starts to become actually more efficient to run your own servers, I think, or rent your servers yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Have you found that equilibrium? Where is that?
So
$100,000 a month, or where is it at?
So for my answer would be a mini question that what are they using serverless for? For us, we're using it for our subscription models, right? We change our subscription models that need 1 server or 2, that need probably 3 servers all the time, that cost maybe $300 to $500 a month to serverless. Because people buy maybe like 10 people, 50 people per day, right? It's not all the time having traffic. And that's where you save. So from $500 to, or $300, it goes down to maybe $10 per month. We use the document generation, the PDF generator, as a Lambda. Before we were paying $300, now it's less than $10 because people don't print all the time. People don't preview all the time. But for our document saving into the database, those things are heavy. Saving our general ledger, those things are heavy. If you use heavy things, like those things happens maybe 100, like maybe 1,000 times per minute or something, right? People create an invoice, maybe 1,000 invoices per minute. Not one person for sure, many people. And that's heavy, and that's not worth it to go on serverless. It'll just cost a lot more.
You're saying that it was license fees, which were a big cost. License fees, you said, or something for the document generation. You pay per usage instead of pay per fixed server or something like this, right?
The document generation is basically a PDF generator. It's nothing to do with license. So in an invoicing system, we generate PDF for people to go and give to their customer to collect money, right? Yes. And to generate those PDF, if you put the code on a server that runs all the time, it costs more than just pay per use, pay per function. Because you don't generate PDF all the time. It's not enough traffic for that. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Any more questions?
So this is heavily under mono-repo, right?
Yeah.
So I always face same issue with mono-repo. So if I have a project inside a mono-repo, which is depending on which three other projects are depending on me, for example, right?
Yeah.
And now I change only my project.
Yeah.
I don't do anything with else, and CI goes on. My project gets deployed, and now how the other 3 will like update their dependencies? That's one part question. The second part is I like to use this library called semantic release. What it does is it creates release based on your commit message automatically.
Yeah.
So it also has the same issue. Like when the dependency is there, it does not automatically go there and update those dependencies. How do you tackle this? And also the same thing goes to when you go to CI. You said like if we implement it correctly, it only triggers the build which it's being changed. I have never seen that happening. How do you do that?
Are you using NX? No. That's why.
I'm not.
That's why. That's the only reason why. Because NX has a tool called affected libs and affected apps. You run affected libs, it tells you your code is affected to how many libraries in your mono repository. Comparing it You can compare it to master branch or whatever branch you want to compare it to. Because inside, when you look at the code, it actually calls your GitHub, and then you compares it to your base branch, right? Your local GitHub base branch. And that happens for the libs, that happens for the apps. So by running that, instead of changing three projects, it'll just know that this code changes only one project. Okay, I need to only build one project. And that's the magic of it. That's yeah.
So now,
can you give me an example? Because I read about semantic release, but I never use it. So it creates a release by changing your package JSON?
No. So the way it works is, say I have an API.
Yeah.
I create a new feature.
Yeah.
But then in that feature, I create a breaking change, for example, right?
Yeah.
I do a git add dot, and when I commit, I have to tell, I have to follow a semantic release. So since you use Angular, it's probably already using that. You know, the feat, fix, show, that kind of commits. When you write that, and your CI will pick up, okay, when was the last tag which was done, and then it compares to now, and then it tracks all the change logs, and it calculates a new version. And then it creates a release on your GitHub repo as well now. Say if your one repo, if it is like, let's say it has 10 projects inside, which means all the releases start making no sense at all. Like it will say, okay, this is a new release, or it just doesn't work.
So I think that is organizing your trunk-based development. So if you organize your trunk-based development properly, when you do a PR, you always have to do a PR. PR to your master branch.
Yeah, for sure.
And PR runs on affected libs and affected apps, right? And then the PR runs into the master, and then you kind of squash your commits into one in the PR. That's what we do. We squash the commits, and then all the commits comes up that what you need to change, right? And the key to it is sometimes you don't want to release something, and in the mono-repo you always have to have feature toggle. That's what I didn't talk about. Sorry, I didn't put it in here, but you always have to have feature toggle. I think that's what you're trying to mean, right? Some features are breaking changes or new features, and then you have to toggle.
No, I don't mean when the deployment is done. So, for example, you have a UI library, and you have core, experimental, icons, and these things, themes, and like that, right? And now you change themes. And say in this case you don't have a breaking change. So you say feature, and then the scope is themes, and then you say, oh, I updated a value on this particular theme. And then when CI picks this up, semantic release is supposed to say, okay, oh, there is a new feature commit, which means if you had 1.0.0, it will say 1.1.0 automatically, publishes this. But then you have another task to actually upgrade this version on the existing other packages, which are also depending on theme. So it's not the deployment part, it's still the repository management part.
Oh, okay. So
this is, till now I have researched a lot, but mono-repo doesn't work at all for this.
If you try using NX and NX affected libs and apps, I think that will help you a lot. Because it does tell you what apps and libs are affected, and you can only change the release for those apps and libs. You don't have to change for everything. And that's the point.
Even if I don't change for our repo, that might be depending on mine, right?
Yeah.
So now the next step is whoever is depending on me, they still need to use the updated version of library. Right?
But it doesn't update? That's what you mean?
It can't update because, well, it just doesn't work that way.
So with the affected apps and libs, it helps you identify what project needs to be updated.
Okay, maybe I should give it a
try. So if it helps you identify that 5 projects needs an update to the team, right? Then in your CI, you kind of write a code to update those 5 projects as well. It helps you identify it, list it out. Let's say, sorry, just a little bit. So basically, it's just does that. Affected apps, right? And whatever apps is affected will get listed out. I think.
I mean, I answer what I mean there.
Yeah, but something is wrong with mine because this is not a GitHub, right? So if I run it on our main one, none of the apps is affected. If I change one code and save it, it will say that that app is affected. And in the CI, I can catch that and tell it that when you do semantic release, only do it for these apps that are affected, not everything.
It does that part. So I can say, okay, only the themes has changed. So new release of themes is changed.
And whatever depends on the theme has changed as well. Change those as well, but not everything.
How do you do that?
Go with the affected apps. But
I have to manually go and see where's the dependency of my project, kind of.
In your CI.
All right.
Yeah, that's what we do. In the CI, we run this and then we catch it and then we change it. That's why I said it's not perfect for us yet as well, because some of it is still manual, but we use this to identify what have changed and then we change what needs to be changed and not everything. And that's what NX does. So yeah, try it out. This is the main feature, the affected apps. Yeah. Any more questions? Nope. Right. Thank you so much, guys, for this opportunity. Thank you.